Not sure if I'm correctly using personal conveyance. Get that question a lot. I'm going to read a scenario and we're going to go through each little part of this scenario. I arrive at a shipper early. Well, good job, driver. He completes his post trip when he gets to the shipper. Then he logs off duty and jumps in the bunk. You sleep for 5 hours, then you PC to a restaurant after you already took 5 hours off. An hour and a half later, you arrive at the restaurant, an hour and a half. Then a half an hour later, you go back into the sleeper berth, into the bunk for 3 more hours. You get up, new day, start your pre-trip. Are you legal or not? So let's go through each part of this question. You arrive at the shipper early. Well, that's wonderful. You complete a post-trip inspection. A lot of trucking companies require a post-trip inspection, but technically by the regulation, you're not required to do a post-trip. Most people don't understand that. You're required to do a driver vehicle inspection report at the end of the day if a defect is known to the driver, but actual post-trip inspection, no. Pre-trip, yes. Post-trip, no. But in this case, good driver, proactive, checking his truck out at the end of his day. Nothing wrong with that. So he's at the shipper early, does a post-trip. Then he logs off duty and jumps in the bunk. Okay, let's stop here. When you log off duty, that's line 1. If you jump in the bunk, that's line 2, sleeper berth. Some officers in the country will write you a false log or a foreman manner, depending on what kind of coffee they had this morning, because you logged line 1 off duty when you're actually in the bunk. Every time you're in the bunk, you should log sleeper berth. And when you're not in the bunk and you're not driving around duty, that's when you log off duty. But in this case, let's assume the driver logged sleeper berth for 5 hours. So now he's got 5 hours towards his 10-hour break. Then he gets hungry. The PC regulation says absolutely. When you are en route lodging, and in this case, 5 hours in the sleeper berth, you can use PC to go to a nearby restaurant, right? And the regulation doesn't even say nearby, but most companies put some limitation. So when I say nearby is the best practice. 1.5 hours later, you arrive at a restaurant. Okay, hold the phone. That might make sense if you're out west, in the middle of absolutely nowhere, given the time of the day maybe, and it's the closest restaurant, or even one that's reasonable. Okay, that's fine. But if you passed up 78 restaurants to go in an hour and a half to get to a restaurant, some officers may scrutinize that. However, the PC guidance does not limit distance or time to go to a restaurant while you're en route lodging. So far, this driver's good. 5 hours of personal conveyance in the sleeper berth. An hour and a half PC, which is driving in the off-duty line, to a restaurant. So now I'm at 6.5. Then this driver eats for a half an hour. After a half an hour, that's 5, hour and a half, 6.5, half an hour. Now we're at 7. Then the driver goes into the bunk and puts sleeper berth for 3. That is a legitimate 10-hour break. Started en route lodging, PC'd to a restaurant, ate at the restaurant off duty, did the remainder of the time there in sleeper berth, getting his 10-hour break. He wakes up, does his legal pre-trip, his mandated legal pre-trip, and then he drives on the clock to a drop lot, not in PC. Is this legal? Absolutely. The only thing this driver should have done different is this. Shouldn't have logged off duty when they were in the sleeper berth. Maybe shouldn't have gone an hour and a half to a restaurant, but as long as you can articulate it, the regulation doesn't restrict that. Other than those two things, 100% 10-hour break. Now, you're not going to be able to split your sleeper berth because he didn't get at least 7 hours in the sleeper berth during that 10-hour break. So splitting your sleeper, which is a modular trucking wins, is off the table. But to get your legitimate 10-hour break and using PC in this manner, absolutely no problem.